Every other department in this city is able to respond to our audits. Not always what we want to hear. It's not always in agreement with what we said, but they comply with the charter and they respond because I think they owe it to this council and they owe it to the people of Buffalo to respond to things that we identified in the audit, which apparently the people of Buffalo care deeply about from the reaction that we got with them. So I just want to address a couple things as far as Rochester goes. He said that if you compare square footages, I'd like to compare families that were helped. Even with these 11 houses, even if you count the units, that's 18 units over 3 years. Rochester, over 3 years, they were averaging 25. That's 75 families that were helped by these funds. And Buffalo, 18. Yet we're spending $500,000 per house, almost $300,000 per unit. So, as far as everything being in the guidelines and everything being fine with HUD, we've heard from Congressman Brian Higgins that he wants a full investigation in front of this before any more funds are released. We've heard from the regional director who's in charge of New York and New Jersey for HUD, and she thinks this should be looked into before any further spending is conducted. And, what we found is that, weighing the cost of demolition and saving a property and that, but I'd just like to point out a couple things. We're spending, $62,000, $55,000, $31,000, $37,000 on demolition costs for houses that we're not demolishing. That's in addition to any asbestos removal. One asbestos removal was $116,000. Now, if we did demo those houses, you do the asbestos abatement and the demolition all for $20,000 to $30,000, when this can cost much more. And I can tell you the root of this problem is the bidding process that takes place. Now, you think, the community identifies, you lead you to believe that, the community identifies this property, right? And that the contractors are competing so the city would get the best deal. That's not the case here. The community group identifies the property and selects the contractor, and the contractor basically names their price. So if they says that asbestos is going to cost $116,000, and if they say that contingency costs will cost $69,000, or contractor profit was $43,000. Now some houses have them, some don't, but the contractor's naming the price, and they put a joint bid in, and they're basically competing against each other. These two guys, and they put in two contractors, and they're putting in multiple bids. So whatever they're going to win the bids. But these houses are not identified, and I think we'd be much better if multiple contractors got to bid on the same house so that we know that those costs are real, so that we know that, there needs to be $70,000 worth of contingency, so we know that there's $100,000 worth of abatement for asbestos in that, but we don't know that now because, honestly, we're in a situation where the contractors just get to name their price and the taxpayers are holding the bag at the end of the day. The process is broken, and we're still waiting for a response. But anything short of revamping the whole program, getting rid of the RFP process the way it is, because it's obviously not working for the city of Buffalo, it's obviously not working for taxpayers, and I think the people of Buffalo deserve more than just blaming regulations and doing the best we can when we have two neighboring communities in this state that are doing it better, spending about $150,000 per house, helping far more families, dozens more families, and they're able to do it, and they're not blaming everyone else, including HUD and anyone else they can, and saying things are out of the control, because they're not. They're in control. We need strategy in this. I mean, there's a house on Laurel. I mean, you hear about, this is good for the neighbor. There's one on Laurel that we spend around $500,000. One side is a boarded up house, and on the other side, the house looks worse than the boarded up one, and the one that we did has no driveway. Meanwhile, across the street, there's 3 vacant lots. There's 6,000 vacant lots in the city that the city owns that they could build on and save these costs of demolition, asbestos abatement, and all this. So, I think the people of Buffalo deserve an explanation on this and less excuse making and more action and more improvement to this program.